everyone, Ogre27 Kane here today, and we're going to do a review of Blaster Master Zero for the Nintendo Switch. Let's do a little bit of an overview and talk about what this game's all about. So this is a remake of an old NES classic called Blaster Master. This is a game that I grew up with as a kid, but never honestly had any luck beating. It was really difficult. This remake offers tons of quality of life improvements, all the graphical overhaul you could ever want, a save system, and tons of other new things. This is brought to us by Inti Creates and Sunsoft, and it has tons of DLC, including the Gunvolt, Shovel Knight, Shantae, and other characters as well. This game is an absolute blast. Let's talk about some gameplay. Well, the gameplay loop in this game is a little different than most others that you've probably played. It has a big open-world Metroidvania experience that you do with the ship, and then it has these top-down little mini-dungeons you experience as the main character. Your main character, as you can see right here, has different weapons and abilities that he can utilize in these dungeons, and they don't necessarily translate back and forth between the character and the ship, but they serve their purpose within their relative worlds. Now, other gameplay elements that include the Metroidvania aspect of this have a nice big open world, yes, but it's still set up in levels, and each level is interconnected but not fully interconnected. There's not really a good fast travel system per se, but the game is not terribly big and you can beat the entire game in 1 to 2 sittings. So this never really bothered me and I didn't have any problem with this. Now there are 2 other games, Blaster Master Zero 2 and 3, but they're not remakes of anything else, and their world structures are built a little bit differently based upon their stories. I personally like this game the most out of all 3 of them, and that's why I chose to go with this one. But if you have any curiosity about those games, they're totally worth playing and I highly recommend them. So let's talk about the next thing, the story. So in this setting, the Earth has basically been destroyed and then rebuilt and then had an ice age and then people are coming out of it again. It has a weird dystopian, apocalyptic kind of setting to it, and this is a completely remade story, not from the NES one. That one was a bit different. It still has the same elements. You have a frog in the beginning that becomes kind of crazy and toxic, and it jumps in a hole, you chase it, and you find this craft, the Sophia III. You then take this craft underneath the ground, and you find this whole alien base and get engaged in this whole world-saving epic. You come across some new characters in this game, and I really like all this new element to it, such as the character Eve you'll see later on in this. But the story element in this game is still bite-sized enough that you can enjoy it within the one setting, and you don't need to enjoy 2 or 3 to even understand the full world. Yes, they expand upon the story and they have their own elements to them, but they're not nearly as good as this game. Alright, well let's hit combat now. And the combat in this game is a lot of fun. As you can see in the top-down dungeon crawling area, you have a gun with different abilities and different weapons you can attach to it. You also have a grenade too. And the bosses are pretty unique in the setting that they try to stay true to the NES Classic while still encouraging and having new elements to them and adding more bosses to the game. There are also a few more, I don't really want to say new areas, but areas that have been expanded upon too that encourage different kinds of combat. Now in the Metroidvania aspect, this is honestly my favorite part of the game, and your combat is built like a traditional Metroidvania, having a hover in place of a double jump, if you will, and you have a wall crawl, but you still have different abilities through your weapons and different things that you can do in the environment to manipulate it and solve puzzles. I love both aspects of the combat in this game, and it really changes it up at just the right time. Now, it's a little heavy on the dungeon crawling aspect for me, but it didn't bother me too much. Let's talk about graphics and animations. So given the fact that this is a 2D aesthetic, as you can tell here, and a pixelated graphic art style, this is actually a complete and beautiful overhaul to the original NES. Yes, it does stay very true to its source material, and a lot of the characters and elements are the exact same and have even the same color schemes. But I believe that Inti Creates really kind of changed it up enough to make this game appealing to the newest generation. As you can see too, there's some background scaling that occurs and some other really cool effects that you really only saw back in the day on those consoles. This game is honestly gonna be a nostalgic dream for a lot of people of my age probably. It's probably not gonna appeal too much to a younger generation unless they really like the Metroidvania aspect to it. But if you're from the same generation I am, you might really absolutely love what they've done with this game, because it truly does speak to what they can do if they really just went back and took a lot of those old NES games. I mean, let's be honest, would you like to see a new Legacy of the Wizard or a new Scheherazade? I don't know, I would. Another thing I have to mention is that the new cutscenes and the animation quality of those cutscenes is pretty good. This was a very early on title on the Nintendo Switch, and I really didn't expect this much out of it. I got hooked back then, and I had to buy the physical edition from Limited Run. So let's hit controls and audio now. Alright, well let's talk controls first, and one of the coolest things about the update and controls on this is now you have an 8-way shot that you don't require having to hold multiple directions. If you use the control stick, you can manipulate this in any way, shape, and form, and this really helps with the combat and the dungeon crawling sections. Now on the Metroidvania aspect of it, all the controls were updated as well, and you have a ton of new abilities that fit in absolutely perfectly. So let's talk about the music now, and frankly I don't have much time, so I'm just going to show it off, and let's see if you like it too. It's one of my favorite aspects of this game, and I really think all the new parts and pieces to it really fit in well with everything they were trying to do. So let's take a little bit of a listen to it now. So of course I had to go with the absolute best song in the whole game just to show how amazing the updates are. Absolute fire. Let's talk about conclusion now. So in conclusion, I have to say that this game is an absolute blast. I bought it digitally when the Switch first released, and when Limited Run announced it, I bought it on day one there too. I also picked up 2 and 3, and now from what I understand there's a triple pack that has all 3 of them on there. Any way that you choose to buy this game digitally or physically is totally worth all of your money, and I absolutely love this remake. Inti Creates is one of my favorite studios on the Switch, and they've given us a lot of really fun games. If you like Gunvolt or anything like Mega Man in that way, shape, or form, check out their stuff. Inti Creates is really top notch. I really enjoyed making this. So with in parting, the last thing I'm gonna say is that this game truly is a one-to-one remake on an old NES classic, Legend, that's worth your time and money. Thank you for watching today's video. It was a blast to make. I upload every single Monday. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day. This is Ogre27Kane signing out.